topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 16 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Speaking of 16 years, our show this morning for the next 15 minutes has basically been with us for the last 16 years. I can't believe all the shows we've done together. I still get blown away. His knowledge is amazing when it comes to tax relief. I know this is going to sound crazy, but Barry Fowler has been with us for so long. I am so honored to have him, his loyalty, and I know the listeners really appreciate his show. Let me welcome you to Barry Fowler, who's the president and founder of Taxation Solutions, Inc. He's an enrolled agent. He's licensed to represent taxpayers before the Internal Revenue Service, that dreaded IRS. His experience in tax and finance industry spans well over 30 years, and Fowler's expertise includes tax resolution, which we're going to do today, tax planning, tax return preparations. He's been instrumental in helping thousands of people just solve these massive problems they have with the IRS. I'm so glad that we've got Barry Fowler of Taxation Solutions. Good morning, Barry.
Hey, good morning, man. That's a fabulous introduction. I think I should just take that and put that on my website. So when anybody comes, I mean, that's fantastic. You embarrass me. Steve, we've been doing this a long time, and I'm still waiting for my paycheck or the W-2 for being on here and doing these things with you. And I have to say about knowledge and information, we started, way back when, coming out and meeting with you and doing our first studio production. We had to be in studio with cameras and all that fun stuff. And I think that one you asked me for a list of questions to ask, because that's the way radio is. A lot of times you have somebody on that's an expert and they have to give you a list of questions so you could ask questions so you can figure out what you need to talk about. And I think we came out there with a list of questions, and you and I just started talking. We didn't even go off the questions. And right. Ever since then, and every radio that we've been on, people ask me, hey, what's your questions? I said, I don't really care. You ask me the tax questions, and I'm going to find or give you the answer to them. And we're not scripted in any way, shape, or form. We're here just trying to help people. And whether you choose to use Taxation Solutions or you choose to jump off the deep end with somebody else, that's your choice. But at least if you're listening to this program or listening to my program, Tax Talk for You, which is on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern time, you'll get the knowledge to know, hey, are these guys leading me astray? Or, hey, am I going the right way to do it? And then that's the reason we also offer free consultations at Taxation Solutions, but it takes you making the phone call at 877-996-6477. Let's get that out of the way really quick. And then, hey, the floor is yours. What do you need to know? What do our listeners need to know? Oh, by the way, I dressed up today because I actually forgot we were doing this show because we didn't have it on my schedule. And I was actually slated to go from the ranch to pick up a bull this morning. So we kind of moved things around, but it was so important to be here today that I moved that around so that we could have the show. I guess I should have put on a coat and tie real quick, but hey, I'm not that kind of guy.
No, absolutely not. And Barry, yours is one of the few shows that I can sit back because we get so many emails. We have a huge mailing list, huge. Over 16 years, you compile a large list. And with YouTube and with Facebook promoting your show, we get so many of your letters. And it makes it so easy. I'm looking at our national show, Fort Lauderdale, Los Angeles, Tampa, Louisville, Brooklyn, Oklahoma City, Santa Fe. I mean, there's people all over the country who want to know or who are having problems with the IRS. And what's so great, one guy said, what's so great about your show is that it's very embarrassing when you owe the IRS and you're afraid to ask what maybe you think is a stupid question, but you always seem to answer questions that people might think are stupid questions. And, Barry, God, if we could just touch one person each show, we've done a lot. And I just know, learning from you, boy, when the IRS is after you, it affects your whole life, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. I mean, it really starts from, family, your wife or your husband, whoever caused the tax problem with the IRS, or maybe they didn't cause it. Maybe they're just going under audit, or maybe it's just something that just happened and, we've got to go in and help fix it. But it starts with family problems, the stress on the family alone, not knowing what's going to happen because the IRS is sending you letters. I mean, right before the show came on, I had a client call me and they were asking me real quick about an IRS letter and wanting to know, am I in trouble? And I'm like, no, look, we got it handled. We could get it taken care of. We're already in front of it. We're aware of it, and we've got holds in place and everything's good. And they're like, oh, thank God, because, hey, that letter makes everybody nervous, and you see a letter come from the IRS and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Well, if it's the letter that says, hey, we're going to levy your bank account and it's final notice, 30 days later, you're going to lose every dime you have in that account because they're going to levy your account. And now that they've sent that to you, they can do that as often as they want without notice because they already gave you that notice. So how does that feel when you go to bed at night, knowing that the IRS could be levying your bank account any day? Man, to me, it would be absolutely nerve-wracking. What we do is put the protections in place, put the holds in place, and get the case moving as fast as possible to get to the resolution. Whether it's offering compromise, whether it's installment agreement, whether it's non-collectible status, whether it's partial pay installment agreement, we have all the tools in the arsenal and know how to use them to get you to the right place. We know how to use the holds. We have people that call us, and we've got tons of people calling, especially the last few weeks. So there's IRS letters going out like crazy, and we're doing tax analysis, and where they're asking us to put holds in place. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're not at that stage yet. We're doing the tax analysis. We've already called the IRS. We've already talked to them. We know where the IRS is at. Let's not waste the hold yet, because you only get so much time to do the holds. Let them get through their flow of letters. And then when we get to that appropriate time, we start using those holds to buy the time that you need to get to the final phase of the solution, wherever that may be. You may have multiple years of taxes to be filed. Let's get those taxes filed first, and then we can go from there. But if we get to the phase where we need it, we can set your mind at ease and get the hold, stop their collection activity so you can actually sleep at night. And I have many clients that tell us, man, we hired you. My wife is so much happier. She is so much more relaxed. You
Yes.
know, even when we get those letters that we still get from the IRS, because we don't stop letters from the IRS. They're going to still send them to you because they want you to know everything that's going on. But she knows that, hey, if there's a question, they just pick up the phone and call Taxation Solutions at the 877-996-6477, and they can get an answer to their question, get an update. And we keep people updated, and that's important in this line of work and important to you as our client and as a taxpayer to know what's going on.
Barry, I'm going to absolutely make it a point to start off our show somewhere in the beginning, because this is probably not a big deal to you, but it is to people who are having problems with the IRS, that you always say this, you are the no judgment zone, because there's a lot of people out there, Barry, who are so embarrassed of the position they're in, and they're so embarrassed they don't even pick up a phone and call you. But I love that, the no judgment zone.
Hey, we have a no judgment zone, and we have started the new no salesman zone. Means when you call our office, we pass absolutely zero judgment on you for what is happening. Matter of fact, we're putting the judgment on the IRS for the way they do things, and let's fix it. But we also started where there is not a salesperson that works in our office. You're going to talk to myself, maybe another enrolled agent, maybe one of my admins to get started, to figure out where we need to go with your case. We're not here to sell you. We're here to educate and get you to become a client of ours out of a necessity to fix a problem, not out of somebody badgering you and gouging you to sell you whatever product or whatever solution they think you want to have. We're going to tell you, hey, this is where we see it going, and this is where we're at. We may say, hey, needs to be a tax analysis so that we can go through and analyze exactly where you're at, and we do them relatively inexpensive so that you know, hey, this is my debt, this is the possible solutions. Now, if you choose not to use this after that, God bless you, and we hope you have success whatever you do. But we'll also give you the quote and give you the information so that you know exactly, hey, this is what it's going to take. This is where we're going to be, and this is how we're going to solve the problem. And then you can say, hey, that works for me. That we trust these guys enough to go out there and let them do it. But it starts with that wonderful tax analysis that we do. And I'm telling you, we offer them cheap because of Ask the Experts. So mention Ask the Experts or taxtalkforyou.com, and we'll give it to you as inexpensive as possible to help you out. And we've done that. I think this week we pulled 6 new tax analysis cases, and we're only to Wednesday morning. And that means that the IRS activity has increased tenfold for us to take on those many cases just here in the first 2 days of the week. And I'm pretty selective because I will tell people, just like you sent a referral this last week, that,
yes,
hey, this is something that you can do on your own or you need other help with, and here's where you can go to get it. And we're glad to give that information out and glad to tell you, hey, this is how you can solve the problem yourself. And hey, it's a free consultation, it's a free call, and it's something we do for everybody that calls in, regardless.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't want to share this with you up front. I wanted you to do whatever you do. We sent over somebody to your office, and it might not be something that you necessarily handle because it had to do with, I think, property taxes. But this is what's so amazing, Barry. The lady we sent you is a very, very, very wealthy woman who always has tax problems. And I don't know what was said, but you have gained a new client down the road that I guarantee you she's going to be calling you up because she's always got tax problems. And whatever was said, whether it was a message left or whatever, you gained a new client just on how you treated her. And it's going to pay off tenfold. But I want to say something else, Barry, because I read all these emails that we get, and I'm sure you know this. There's people who have hired these big companies. When I say big company, because you're a big company, Barry, but you're just kind of laid back, where these other companies are pounding their salespeople with you, and people got so turned off that they think all companies are like that. And I really want you to touch on that, because you are so the opposite of these companies that rarely call you back after they get their first check. You know what I'm talking about. There's people that go, they're all that way, and I'm not even going to waste my time calling another one.
Yeah, absolutely. People that call us, we'll talk to them and we'll tell them the God's honest truth. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we're talking from a level of expertise versus a level of a salesman whose only job is to sell you and get you in the door. And then whatever happens from there, they don't care. And most of the companies don't care. They just want your payments. And a lot of times we hear that, hey, they quoted one thing and now they're charging more and more and more money to accomplish the one thing they quoted, because they say, oh, it needs this or needs that and everything else. Hey, we understand sometimes you need more tax returns, or sometimes you need a couple of other things that need to go on. And there's going to be bills for those kind of things. But the solution itself, it should be a set price. There's companies out there that they take the money. They never get any action. They never get anybody to get their case down the road. They never get a solution. And then they're calling us and going, hey, I spent thousands of dollars with this company. What makes you different? Well, what makes us different is we're always in contact. We're always trying to help. We're trying to get every case closed as quick as possible. And we understand, and we try to explain, and we do explain to our clients, hey, what's the time frames for everything that's going to happen? And some of it's dependent on you, the client, of getting us the information to be able to get it down that path in that kind of time frame. But like an offer and compromise, we had an offer and compromise that we were working on last year. We submitted it about January of 2025. They just reached out to us now from the IRS to start working the case here in February of 2026. So some things do take a little longer to do, but in the meantime, guess what? We've called him every single month to tell him that, hey, we've checked on your case. It's still pending in the offer and compromise unit. And, here's what the status is. Until they start working it, it's not going to change. But as soon as they start working it, then, hey, we're jumping on it and we're going. Same thing happens when we're doing non-collectible or even partial pay installment agreement. Once it hits the IRS and it's pending, we're still in contact, letting you know, hey, this is the stage, this is where we're going. And guess what? That gives you a sense of confidence, knowing that your case is being handled. It gives you a sense of basically relaxation, knowing that somebody else is dealing with this and you don't have to. And it sets your mind at ease. Versus these other companies, they sold you the bill of goods and then they don't care. And that's just what happens. The other thing we see is they sell you the pipe dream. Yes. Everybody has dreams, man, and everybody loves it when they hear that radio, man, and they hear, oh my gosh, I could settle this for pennies on the dollar. And then you call them up and they're like, yeah, we could settle this for far less than what you owe. And man, we're going to get you a great settlement. And then they call me and I'm going, hey, look, Mr. Jones, man, you make over $100,000 and it's just you and your wife's making money. there ain't no way you're qualifying for an offer in compromise. But XYZ resolution told me, dang it, I can do it. Well, how much are they going to charge you? Well, I owe $100,000 and they're going to charge me, $20,000 to do this or $16,000 to do this. Look, Mr. Jones, you're going to get a payment plan. And here's roughly what your payment plan is going to be. This is what we can do for you with what I know. And I've been doing this a long time. I'm not a young puppet at doing IRS resolution. I've been in the tax business now for 40 plus years, and that knowledge is a heck of a lot more than what that salesman's knowledge was. But if you want to believe a salesman over somebody that's a seasoned vet at doing this, God bless you. Good luck. Please don't call and complain to me, because I've already told you what's going to happen. And then, well, I got to go there because, they're going to get me that offer. All right. I've told you, ask these questions first before you sign anything, because if they can't answer that, then you're dealing with the wrong place. So, and that's just the way things go. They want to sell what they want to sell, and that's why we don't have salesmen anymore. Our salesmen, it's about money. No, and we've always been this way, and even our salesmen used to always be this way, was that it's about solving the tax problem. It's not about the sale. And none of our salespeople, when we had them, were on commission. They were all on salary. So they had no reason to upsell anybody for anything. And then we've decided that our enrolled agents and our admin staff are the best to handle it. And so we have a no sales zone. There's no salesman. It's, hey, let's talk about it. Let's get it done. And let's find a way to move you forward.
Barry, I want to bring up businesses before we get to our questions. If you're a business owner and you want to try to handle this yourself, and you go and try to call the IRS, here you are running your business. Barry, how long does it take sometimes that you're on hold just to talk to an agent?
Well, the nice part for me is I got a priority line, so I'm a little bit shorter than most people. But if you're the everyday taxpayer, it could be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that, that you could be sitting on the phone. And then it's all about collections. It's not about really helping you. And I've said this before. Ronald Reagan said it best when they say, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Man, run, hang up the phone. They're not really there to help. They're there to help the government. That's what they get paid to do. Collections, take the money from you, get as much as possible. When you're in business, most of the time, those taxes are payroll taxes. And now you're possibly dealing with a revenue officer. And that revenue officer wants to issue trust fund penalties and wants to hit you with as many penalties as possible and get as much money out of you as possible. And we work with you as a business to try to avoid those. We're working with a business right now that owes about $1 million in payroll taxes. They're close to $1 million in each of the owners in income taxes. And so we're now working with the business and working with the revenue officer, and we're getting them to where we can actually make sure that they don't get hit with trust fund penalties. So there'll be no trust fund penalties on the business owners for the business, thank God, and get to where they can start paying on those payroll taxes as soon as possible and trying to get these things paid down. Some of it was the owner's fault. Some of it was the payroll company they were using, and they just really messed them up. So we've got reasons and excuses and stuff. So we're actually getting some penalties abated. Of these payroll taxes, they're close to $250,000 of that is in penalties and interest, and we're getting probably close to $125,000 in penalties abated. That's yet to be seen, but that's what it looks like we're going to be able to do for them as well. So there's a lot of different options we go through to do to solve those problems. But when you're dealing with yourself, man, I've seen it. These revenue officers will just put that little piece of paper in front of you and say, "Hey, sign here." You sign it. Next thing you know, you've got $500,000 in trust fund penalties levied against you and all the other business owners. And now you're paying trust fund penalties personally. You're paying your payroll taxes to the business. So the IRS is double dipping to collect the same money. Yes, it all reduces the debt, but they're getting it from both sides. And where does the money come from? It comes out of the business. So, it's things like that that we've got to figure out and work around and then avoid to save you on payroll taxes, whether it's 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, million or more. We'll work with you to find the best solution and get it done the right way.
Hey, Barry, speaking of businesses, I'm looking at some of these emails. Here's one from Albuquerque, Mark in Albuquerque. He said, I was strolling through YouTube and saw your show today, and I cannot believe I have someone who really seems like he knows what he's doing. My business went under last year. I owe the IRS taxes, but I am a corporation. Do I still owe them even though I'm out of business?
So what you need to do is call us. I got a lot of clients that are in New Mexico that we work with. Matter of fact, 3 out of the 6 this week came out of New Mexico.
Wow.
And it's New Mexico tax as well as the federal tax. But give us a call. Let us talk about it. We have a solution for you, being that the company's out of business. We do want to do a tax analysis with you and give you the exact facts. But call us at 877-996-6477. Again, that was 877-996-6477. We'll do that free consultation for you. And we'll give you that very low reduced price for the tax analysis. We'll run it on both you and the company, figure out the right solution. If your company is truly under, and then there's other circumstances you've got to meet as well, we can probably get all the taxes reduced, removed, or just completely eliminated for your company. But there's a lot of factors that go into that. And also depends on what you've done since you've shut down the business as well. Because if you've opened another business that's similar, just because you opened another business and closed a business and they're similar, they can now say, hey, they're considered to be one and the same. So we've kind of got to deal with what the situation is at hand. But if you've jumped out to be a W-2 employee and working for somebody else, well, that may be a little bit easier for us to get through and do. But it's not something you really want to handle on your own. I would say it's something you need somebody that's going to give you the guidance and do it for you and get it done. And if you're a W-2 employee, how much time do you really have to sit on the phone with the IRS while you're working? It's going to be very difficult to do.
Wow. Barry, you have a show on Mondays every week, a live show at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Tell people about your show.
Yeah, we're right after Ask the Experts on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Hey, give you a plug here too. So you guys are on at 9 a.m. Eastern. Yes. We're right after at 10. We talk about taxes, and we talk about, sometimes business planning, sometimes budgeting, sometimes, are you going to write a business plan? We talk about like the one big beautiful bill and how that's going to impact your 2026 taxes. And then we also run sometimes just a question and answer show where it's just answering everybody's questions, whether it's questions that you're putting in while we're on the show, like you can do here, or it's, questions that have been sent in over the week and we want to get answers out for everybody. This week's our show was about trucking and small businesses and what can happen in taxes and what you're looking for in reducing taxes and things like that. So we're giving all kinds of insight to help people with their taxes. We've run shows on, solving IRS problems, do it yourself. And so we have a couple of our podcasts that are out there is IRS Solutions 101, IRS Solutions 102. We kind of ran it as a college course. How can we educate you? And I've educated many enrolled agents that have come in, and even some CPAs that have worked for me, and educated them how to do IRS resolutions so that we had the best team. And a lot of those have gone out and, running their own businesses and stuff like that. So I thought, hey, if we're going to do a podcast and we're going to do a show, let's make it educational. Let's educate everybody. I don't always recommend going out there to do it yourself. It could be like me being a plumber. There's days I walk out here and I've done plumbing myself for the cow pasture fields, and I walk out and next thing I know, I've got pipes that have burst or are broken or came apart because I didn't do it right. I got to go back in and try to refix it, or if it's in the house, then my wife calls the plumber or the electrician to fix it because she doesn't trust me to do it. But out with the cows, they don't make any phone calls. So, I can just try to do it myself until my wife gets mad. But that being said, we don't always recommend do it yourself, but come and watch our show at Tax Talk 4U. And that's Tax Talk, the number 4, letter U.com. Mondays, 10 a.m. Eastern time, right here on W4CY Radio.
Well, since you're talking about this, tell people about the IRS playbook.
So yeah, we got IRS playbook .info. It's the book of our steps that we take and we use to solve tax problems. And we have mastered this over the last 30, 40 years of dealing with the IRS and helping people solve their tax problems. Hey, I'm sorry about my dog. She's being a little bit hyper over here. If you hear her,
I hear her.
I'm doing this from out here on the ranch. I was supposed to be this morning, as you and I talked, picking up a bull this morning, and we didn't have this on my schedule per se. I knew we had it coming up, but I didn't see it when I was going to go out there and do it. So I'm actually doing this from the house. And so I'm going to have to put this dog in her kennel, so maybe she'll settle down for a second. But anyway, that being said.
Sounds like a very big dog, Barry.
I have 3 labs, 1 border collie, and what my wife calls her multi-poo or something like that. And they are all indoor dogs. So they are here. The one that's kind of being a little bit squeaky here is our 14-year-old yellow lab. So she's kind of being a little bit hyper because I'm home today. Earlier, the border collie was climbing up on me. Yes, the border collie was supposed to be an outside dog to chase my cattle and move cattle. But shortly after we got her here, wife took her in and said, she's mine and she's an indoor dog and she's not going near the cattle. Well,
I got to tell you, we've already gone halfway through the show and I haven't even gotten to the questions yet. So do you need to take your dog out?
No, I'm going to put her in her kennel real quick, but you can ask the question and then I'll do it. So hold on here. Come on. Here.
So I want to go, Greg in Fort Lauderdale. We've kind of touched on this. He said, I just found your show in December and I was looking forward to watching more of your shows. I'm glad to hear that you also have a weekly show. Will you handle all communications with the IRS and the Department of Revenue?
So I'm back. I missed that.
Okay. This is from Greg in Fort Lauderdale. He said, I just found your show in December. I'm glad to know that you have also a weekly show. I'm looking forward to watching those. Will you handle all communications with the IRS and the Department of Revenue?
Yes, we handle everything. You never have to talk or deal with an IRS agent once you hire us. We basically, you sign a 2848, which is the IRS power of attorney, which delegates responsibility to us. Now, That being said, we don't sign anything on your behalf. We will agree on a payment plan or offering compromise with your consent. You sign 433s, 656s, tax returns, all yourself. We don't sign anything on your behalf. Now, all communications is done between us and the IRS and us and you. If IRS agent calls you once we have power of attorney signed and on file, they're violating the law. If they call you anyway, the first thing you tell them is you have representation. You give them my name, my phone number, and tell them to call me. Now, be nice about it. You know, I've had some people say, hey, can I tell them to go pound sand and tell them to go what to do with themselves? No, just be nice. Give them my number, hang up the phone, and call it a day. Because the worst thing you can do is be mean to these guys. Yeah, they work for the federal government. Yeah, you may not like them. Yeah, you don't like the job they have to do. They're people. Give them a little bit of respect and be a little bit nice and understand that we're going to take care of it. You know, we'll immediately, once you give us that number and that information and their name, we're going to immediately call that person that either was in contact with you. Maybe they showed up at your business because you've been ignoring them for a long time and you just finally got in touch with us and you gave them our card. They'll call us, we'll call them, and we'll take care of it. You don't have to deal with them anymore. That's kind of the beauty of hiring taxation solutions is you're not going to talk to the IRS and the IRS isn't going to talk to you as long as you, there are some qualifications in here. So we're always going to be in touch with the revenue officer if they're working with you. And on your case, we're going to be in communication with them. If we ignore them for a long period of time and they're asking for stuff, they're going to tell you. And matter of fact, they're going to report us for not handling your case and ignoring or delaying or stalling or whatever it may be that they want to claim we're doing. They would report us to the Office of Professional Responsibility. We don't do that. We stay on top of these cases. We stay in communication with them. Second thing is if you're not providing us information and we can't get information to send to them, guess what? They're going to come to you or summons you, and you will still have to appear to provide them the information you're refusing to give to us that they're requesting that we need to give to the IRS. So there are reasons they could still go around us, but those reasons have to be because information is not getting there for whatever reason. And it's not something we do. We will hold your feet to the fire to make sure we're getting the information as soon as possible and as quick as possible to solve the problem. This one of our clients that this week that the IRS finally called on an offer and compromise is demanding answers to at least 12 different questions and items that they saw when they did discovery. Things like 3 or 4 vehicles that were in their name that still appear in their name but weren't on their information worksheet. Some large transactions that happened when they did a search back on their bank account information that wasn't disclosed to us and we couldn't see from a couple of years ago. And, now we've got to get the information and we only get like 2 weeks. Now, if I'm in contact with them, I'll get another week or 2 down the road because there are some big questions that they've got to get answered. And some of them are from a few years ago. But that is what our job is. And that is how we stay in communication and keep them off your back and you don't have to deal with them. So you can sleep at night, rest easier and know that, hey, there's going to be somebody watching over it. And one of the things that we do, we have great software that we use and we work within the IRS system as well, is we're always monitoring what's happening on your transcripts. Mm. So if something pops up, even before you get that letter or even before we're notified, and we see it come up, hey, we're ahead of it. We've already jumped on it and working with it. We see that, hey, they're going to issue another levy or something. We can jump in and head that off because you're a client of ours, and we're watching that as we're working through solving the problem. Now, one of the beautiful things we do, because we have such a great system like that, is after you've got your problem resolved, you can also add on to your case transcript monitoring, to where we can continue to monitor your transcripts and what's going on with the IRS after the solution is done, so that you always stay in compliance. And where does that come in? Well, if you got an offer in compromise, you got a 5-year period that you have to stay 100% in compliance with IRS rules, or that offer gets returned and all that debt comes flooding back. It's like, dam breaking, and all that money that's been behind that offer dam just came flooding through, and now just wipes your life out completely again. Well, transcript monitoring would be able to say, hey, look, Johnny, you got to make your estimated tax payments this quarter. Get it done. You didn't do that. You're filing timely. Oh, IRS is getting ready to examine and look at your tax return. If we didn't file your tax return, hey, we're going to reach out to you and say, hey, we need to look at your return compared to the IRS records, because they're about to examine you, and you might want to get an amendment in and get the taxes paid to save that offer as well. So little things like that have helped people maintain their offer. And why does it become important? I have one of the best examples. I had a client come to me that had an offer not done from us. He moved from one location to another, but happened to call us and said, hey, I've had this offer out here that was accepted almost 5 years ago. And I filed late and I owed money. And now they're notifying me that they're denying and rejecting and returning the offer. And I owe more than $250,000 plus penalties and interest that have accrued over those 4+ years. And he goes, what can you do? And I said, well, let's talk about how much money you make. Oh, I'm doing really well now. I'm into the mid 6 figures. Yeah, unfortunately, there is nothing I can do to save this offer. It's toast. I'm sorry.
Right.
You should have been monitoring and knowing what you're doing, and you should have been working with people that know what they're doing to make sure they get it done. Well, the guy told me it was going to be no big deal. Well, he didn't know you had an offer out there, and now you filed just 30 days late, just owing $5,000. And now he owes that $5,000 plus more than $250,000 plus the penalties and interest that accrued. So there was nothing we could do. We could get him on a payment plan. That was it, because he made way too much money and had too much in assets. So those are things that become important. That's why sometimes transcript monitoring alone is important, in life.
Barry, one of the things I've learned from you, many things I've learned from you, is that when people try to handle the IRS themselves and they ended up coming to you, and you would go, you shouldn't have shared that information with them, because the average person doesn't know. You know what you can share with the IRS and what you can't. But I'm sure you get a lot of clients that way, that you go, I wish you hadn't shared that with them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a difference between sometimes doing an offering compromise after somebody's done their own work or shared information with the IRS, or doing a payment plan. I've called on somebody that, we were going to do a payment plan, and it seemed like this was going to be pretty straightforward and pretty simple and stuff. And I called the IRS, and I found out he had just finished talking to them just a week or two before, and they had notes in there. Well, he told me one thing, and he told them something completely different. And so we got into having this conversation with the agent that I was dealing with. They immediately referred it to a revenue officer. And so now we were not dealing with just the regular agents. We were dealing then in a revenue officer, which was going to be 60 to 90 days later. About 45 days later, the revenue officer called me and started pulling up information that this client happened to give them. Thank God I was able to prepare and talk with the client to understand what was going on. Well, he was kind of talking off the top of his head in generalities versus actual documents and specifics. So when the revenue officer called me, she was quoting that he had close to $250,000 in his 401k. Well, he didn't disclose that most of that money was matching money, and he had no access to a lot of that money. He had already borrowed against his 401k, so there's even less money available to him in there. He was making payments on it through his paycheck deductions. He said he had a bunch of money in bank account. Well, no, he didn't. He had a little bit of money in the bank account, but his wife, who was not party of any of this debt, because his debt was before they got married and they hadn't filed together, had a separate account for an inheritance she received. And so he had disclosed all that, and the IRS was thinking they could go after all this money. He opened his mouth, stuck in his foot, and now I'm trying to recover from things like that, where that is not any of the IRS's business. It's not their money. It's not his money. I've had other clients disclose other accounts and things that they have no responsibility for, and they shouldn't be tied to. Sometimes you just happen to be a signer on a parent account. As long as your social security number's on there, it's not yours. But sometimes just talking, they just ask questions and you just answer without the knowledge of what they're going to do with that. And it really sometimes hurts people really bad when you're trying to get the right solution in place.
I'm going to see if this is a good question. Kelly in Tampa, she said, I really appreciate your show. Thank you so much for taking the time to educate us. I can't pay my taxes. What do I do?
Well, what you need to do is contact us. I don't know how much money you owe. Let us talk about it. Let's figure out what's going to be the best thing for you. You could possibly be in a non-collectible status. You could be just a payment plan. If you owe enough money, offering compromise might be right for you. But we'll need to sit down and talk about it. So just, hey, give us a call off the show, off air, 877-996-6477. And Kelly, I promise we'll have a special deal working for you. We'll give you some really low cost tax analysis, but just give us a call. I'm sure Steve will shoot you the email with my information on it if you're not still listening, and tell you to mention Ask the Experts, and then we'll cut you a fantastic deal on that as well. But again, just give us a call. It's a free call, no matter where you are in the country. 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. If everybody in our office is busy, you'll go to an answering service. They'll get information, and we will get back in touch with you very shortly. The other thing you can do is go to taxationsolutions.net, and you can see there that we are A+ rated with the BBB. You can go and connect over at the BBB out of the Houston area and see that, man, we have some fantastic reviews over there. We don't even ask our clients to do reviews like other people do. People just do them out of their goodness of their heart, and they're happy. We are not pursuing reviews like other people do. So when you see hundreds of reviews from other companies, they're either pursuing them, or some of them we've learned are fake. But we don't go after the reviews like other people do. But just give us a call. We got a free consultation. Again, that's 877-996-6477. And we're here to help you. And as always, man, tune in here at Ask the Experts, man. Great show, hey, great program. We love it with Steve-O.
I got a personal thought to share with you. So Barry and I used to be on in Houston, one of the top stations. It's owned by the lieutenant governor, their top station. And I look at now with podcasts and YouTube, oh my God, we could have never gotten these kind of numbers on one radio station. So I'm glad I finally decided to go the podcast route. I mean, it's amazing. Barry, you're amazing. Go get your bull.
Hey, I'm heading out to do it, but hey, if you got a tax problem, hey, give us a call right away. Go to taxationsolutions.net. Give us a call at 877-996-6477. We're going to be glad to help you, give you a tax analysis, and get you down the road to get you the right solution. But hey, man, make sure you turn into Ask the Experts, man. You got a lot of experts on here on W4CY Radio, and tune into taxtalk4u.com, 10 a.m. Mondays, Eastern time on W4CY Radio. And again, it's Tax Talk, the number 4, letter U.com. Follow us over there so you never miss an episode. Follow Ask the Experts and never miss an episode of them either. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it, man. Have a great and God bless
you too, bro. Love you, man. That's Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. Folks, I so recommend this company if you've got tax problems. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back in with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.